Julie, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. I believe I have our group, our board of directors online and unmuted.
All right, let's recall the meeting back to order. There was no reportable actions taken during the closed session. So we're going to make a motion to approve the consent calendar. So I make a motion to approve the December 2020 checks and warrants, and also approve the minutes of the regular meeting on December 17th and the special meeting on December 28th of 2020. Do I get a second on that?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. All right. At this point, I would like to let everyone know that we received a letter late this afternoon from Miss Rhonda Lucas. And I'm going to ask David Hobbs of our legal team to address that very quickly so we can move forward.
Sure do. We received a letter on behalf of Angels Crossing. It essentially rehashes the same issues they raised back in December with regards to Director Zachariah Manning and Director Julie Davies. And we reiterate, as does the Stanislaus County, that those appointments are valid, and the board constitutes a legitimate quorum, and they're moving forward to do the business of Western Hills Water District.
Thanks, David. All right. Written communication. Are there any written communications other than what was presented by Ms. Davis?
No.
That's my name, excuse me. All right, moving on to action items. Review and interview valid applicants to appoint director to board vacancies. Consider motion to appoint valid applicants to the board vacancies. The format for the interview will be as follows. We're going to introduce each of the candidates. The board's going to ask them each individual questions. At the end of asking them questions, I'm going to open it up for any questions or comments from the community for each individual candidate. So once we interview a candidate, then the community will be able to, then we'll move on to the second candidate. And then when we've finished interviewing all three candidates, then the board will discuss and move on, making motions if need be.
As a reminder, there's a 3-minute there's a 3-minute max.
Is it 3 or 2? 3 minutes?
I have 3 minutes.
No, it says 2. The
Oh, okay.
It must be limited to 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
The 3 minutes will be at the very end of the meeting when we open it up to the public for just comments and questions.
Okay.
So it'll be limited to 2 minutes. We ask that people be respectful and not be derogatory or disruptive in any manner. All right, so the first individual I'd like to bring up would be a Chris Blessing. Can we unmute him?
Okay, just give me 1 minute.
I got it.
Oh, there you are.
Hello, Mr. Blessing.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm well.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All right, so first of all, I'm going to ask a series of questions to you. First, are you a homeowner, and are you on the title of your home listed on the application?
Yes and yes.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you think your talents and abilities could help us here at the Water District, qualifications that you would bring to the board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know you've already been interviewed once, but for people who are joining in that may not know you or heard the last meeting, I would like to hear a little more from you.
Sure, certainly. My full name, Chris Blessing. I'm a software engineer for a Bay Area company. I moved here in April of 2017. And, obviously, just like most people, I fell in love with this place as soon as I saw it. And there was pretty much no way I wasn't going to buy a house here at that time. Little did I know that there was trouble brewing behind the scenes at the time. But, foremost, I think that my technical skills might be useful to the water district, not to mention my general experience in the corporate world. So having been in millions of meetings over my time, having communicated with various people from various backgrounds in various departments across various companies, one can surmise that perhaps I have reasonable communication skills and would be able to be effective, at least in the communications department. As far as what else I could bring to the table for the water district, simply a passionate homeowner who wants this place to survive and prosper and grow. I think as a team, we, the board, can strategize and make some decisions that would be best for the community and best for the water district. And that's sort of the highest level goal that I have, other than simply trying to make the water board more functional if I can. A little bit about my history. I'm actually from Florida and moved to New York when I turned 18, went to college for a couple of years up there, decided I hated snow, and had always wanted to be in Silicon Valley. So the first opportunity I got to go work for a company in San Jose, I certainly took it. And I've been a Californian ever since. You can imagine it's not too hard to transplant from Florida to California. In fact, it's awesome without the humidity. But yeah, I mean, I hope that I can bring my technical knowledge. My current situation is working from home, and it will be for the foreseeable future. So I'll have time to spend on things rather than making that 3-hour round trip commute. And I just look forward to working with you guys. Whatever we can get done, whatever I can do to help is what I want to be part of.
Awesome. So in the realm of transparency, I'm assuming but others probably know this, but when you get onto a public utility company board, you have to fill out a form. It's called the 700 form. And that's basically a statement of economic interests within our district. And basically it helps us and helps the community know if you have any type of investments or anything within the district. So I'm going to ask 2 questions regarding this. For transparency purposes, you'll have to disclose it on your 700 form anyway. And it's always nice to get that information out before then get put on a board and then find out you have a list of things that might cause you to be ineligible to vote on certain items for conflict of interest issues. So here are the 2 questions I have. One is, do you have any economic interests or investments within the Western Hills Water District? And if so, what are they? And maybe just give us a little information about that if you have any.
Sure, I do not, other than my home and land that I live in.
Okay.
And on.
That's easy.
Yep.
Your form will be very easy to fill out. And then and one last question would be, do you have any financial interests, or have you invested any money into Angels Crossing or any of their companies' names that they may have unknown or known to us, or any of the individuals who are on the board of Angels Crossing? Do you have any ties to them in any way, or would you be getting any kind of beneficiary to anything once the place is developed here, where you would be getting any kind of money or kickback or anything on anything that's done here?
I do not.
Okay, great. And then the 5th question from my perspective that I'd like to have answered would be, there's a lot of challenging days ahead for the water district. They're very challenging coming up. And I just want to know if, because you're a homeowner here, are you going to have a problem making tough decisions that may, there might be disagreements with some of the folks that live up here with decisions that have to be made. And are you able to have a clear head, do your due diligence to investigate the facts on anything that comes up to be voted on, and where tough decisions have to be made, are you the kind of person, do you feel like you can make those tough decisions?
I do feel I am that kind of person. I know that we're in a pretty dire situation, and I know that it's not going to be easy for absolutely everyone. And I'm hoping we can find solutions that, either help those in need who may need it if it comes down to something like that, or at least be able to communicate correctly to the community. This is why, what, where, and why this is happening. At the very least, you know what I mean? I think I know that there's a lot on the chopping block right now, if you will, and a lot at stake. So we definitely, as a board, need to make critical decisions soon to keep this place going, for sure.
Yep.
I'm prepared for that.
Okay. Does Julie or Zechariah have any questions for Mr. Blessing?
I don't have any questions.
I mean, I could come up with a question. I've read through your bio here. It's pretty impressive. I mean, I myself, do coding as well, so I can certainly appreciate the sort of approach to things. I guess I have a very basic question. How do you feel like your analytical approach, when it comes to coding and things of that nature, you have to really be innovative a lot of times and be like a problem solver. Do you feel like those strengths would really play into the position here on the board, and how do you feel like they would, help you to solve complex problems when they arise?
I think that's a very good, pertinent question. Yes, certainly as an engineer, and I have been for 20 years, that's sort of my thing, is we have a problem, we need to solve it. And as far as how it sort of parlays from the coding world, programming world, you always have to start with the facts, you have to start with the requirements. You don't build a wall before you build the foundation of a house. Just like in code, you don't build features before you have a foundation for your software. And certainly with the water district, it's kind of a different situation where we're not building something from scratch, but we're looking at it as a pre-existing software package or pre-existing code base that we need to go in and fix. And if I can toot my own horn a little bit, I mean, that's sort of my thing is as a fixer, if you will, in the programming world. I'm more than happy to dive into some rat's nest of code and sort it out and just make it, immeasurably better and more efficient. And that's the other thing, is efficiency is the key when it comes to software, right? We have to be extremely concise, we have to be extremely diligent about the decisions we're making when we're programming. And so I think that plays hand in hand with whatever board decisions or discussions or whatever we may need to do to solidify the district. All of that's going to be taken, from my perspective anyways, all of that's going to be with an engineering mindset for sure. Hope that answers your question.
Well, that was a comprehensive and quite an excellent answer, I must say.
Very good.
Yeah, very highly impressive. We'd love for you to jump into this rat's nest and bring your expertise.
Sometimes it's how it is. It's nice to start fresh.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
For sure.
All right, so Ashley, we're going to open this up for anyone in the community that would like to ask Mr. Blessing a question or make a statement. Again, please keep it respectful, non-derogatory. But if you'd like to ask a question, put up your hand so Ashley sees, or put in the chat box or something. Okay, I see Miss Gina Scotland has her hand up if somebody would like to let her in.
Yeah. Here we go. Gina, can you hear us?
You're muted.
Okay, better?
Hi, Miss
Can you
Scotland.
hear me now?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, great. I don't have a copy of your bio, Chris, but can you tell me, have you been on other boards, and are they boards of basically multi-million-dollar companies?
I have not. I'll be completely honest with you. I've never reached that level of management. I have been in management in the past for companies like Yahoo, back when they were actually relevant. But no, I don't have major board experience at any sort of Silicon Valley company or anything like that. I look at this as an opportunity to learn a little bit about how the board operates, or how a board would operate. I have done my homework a little bit on things like the Brown Act and what it means to be a board member on a utility in California, what it means to be a water district in California, in fact. So I feel pretty good. I feel pretty well prepared for it, but certainly it would be a bit of a learning experience for me.
Right. Because I did work at AT&T for 35 years in the programming world, and I've been on boards also, and it is two completely different things. So
I can only imagine.
yeah, what's your skills and abilities with working with people if there's conflict or you have disagreements on stuff?
I certainly look at myself as a mediator. You know, I want people to be able to express their side of the equation, whatever it may be. And if there's common ground we can find in between. I know I'm starting to sound like some kind of politician right now, but that's how it works, right? If you can find common ground, then you can find a compromise. And if it needs to even be a compromise, sometimes you can explain things in a certain way, and the opposing party or the other party may actually end up agreeing with each other, you know? Certainly the goal that I would have would be to never raise my voice, never escalate anything beyond professional manners, and also to ensure that we come out of every meeting with action items, things to do, no stalemates, you know, if at all possible.
Okay, thank you.
You're sure.
Thank you, Gina.
Alan, I have a question for you. Why aren't you running for the board?
That was an excellent question.
Yeah. Oh, I already muted her. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Her reaction was answer enough.
All right. If anybody else is out there that has any questions, please raise your hand or put it in the comment section. I don't see anyone. So I'm assuming we can move forward.
All right. So I'd like to bring in Miss Linda Coopers.
All right. Unmuting Linda right now. Linda, can you hear us?
Yeah, I sure can.
Hello, Miss Coopers. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Just kind of absorbing what everybody's talking about.
Sure. All right. Well, I'm going to ask pretty much the same questions that I did of Mr. Blessing for you as well, and then we'll open it up. So first, are you a homeowner and on title of the listed property that you have on your application?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. And then second, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your talents, abilities. I did read your bio, and very impressive, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about it. When I was reading your bio, there was a lot of engineering and then water board experience, and maybe you can kind of tie it all together a little bit in a bow for us, and how those qualifications will help us here on the board.
Okay. As far as recent experience, I have worked for I worked for a company called, well, I won't say the company, but it was bought by a major company that's global. And our company actually had offices in California, in Florida, and Manila, Philippines. And I was responsible for managing teams in all three offices. In the office in Livermore, I had 23 employees. And in the office in Manila, Philippines, I had 40 employees. In the office in Florida, I had 7 employees. And I was the senior manager over all of them. I worked there for 7 years. So as far as tough decisions, yeah, I've made a few. Some that people really didn't like, but you know, sometimes you have to do that, especially when you're managing that big of a team. Managing that big of a team, especially the team in Manila, Philippines, came with some kind of really tough things to have to manipulate. Logistics wise, they're halfway around the world, right, and I can't be in office. So finding ways to be able to manage them, you know, when you only travel there 2 to 3 times a year and manage a team there, it takes a specific skill set to do that. Fortunately, I've been very successful in doing that. prior to that, most of my life has been in the public eye. I worked for first school districts when in my young life. I worked for school districts, and then eventually moving to cities. I worked for the city of Stockton. I've worked for the city of Modesto, and I've also worked for, I worked for the city of Tracy. I almost forgot them. When I worked for the city of Tracy, I worked in their, not only their fire prevention department, but I also worked in their planning and building department. Working with the engineers, working with the building department, permits, all of those kinds of things. When I worked for the city of Stockton, I worked in their redevelopment and housing division. So that has to do with a lot of public money. Especially your redevelopment and redevelopment agency has a lot to do with public money. And while I wasn't on those boards, I was the employee answering to those boards. So I was in the hot seat a lot with them. When I worked for the city of Houston, I really was in the hot seat a lot because that was just before the downturn of the economy. And I was able to, we were actually just getting the redevelopment agency off the ground. We put out a bond act, and it was voted on by the city and fortunately passed. So I'm very familiar with bond money, very familiar with how it works, very familiar with how it gets paid back, very familiar with what you can and cannot do with it. And that's what I did with my public life. I've built with that bond money in the redevelopment agency. I started redoing the downtown. There's a few blocks, if you've ever been in the city of Houston, you'll see that there's a few blocks that have been redone. Those were me. In fact, there's a statue in town, in the middle of town. It's a peach farmer, and there's a plinth behind it that has a brass plaque on it. And my name is actually on that plaque as the project manager running that whole thing. There's also a time capsule in there. So that was a fun project to work with the public. So I worked with the public a lot, especially doing projects, especially that particular one. We also redid a few of the downtown areas. When I was doing the downtown, I should say infill areas, there were several blocks within the city that had no curb, gutter, sidewalk. So we did a lot of that project. That was a little bit of an interesting project because the city engineer actually had, you talk about conflict, so you're going to see that I have a little bit of experience in that. The city engineer actually ended up being indicted. And so they had no one to do any of the engineering projects. So being as I was running the redevelopment agency, they actually handed all of those projects to me. Obviously, I'm not an engineer, so I had to go out and recruit and get a contract city engineer to help me with a lot of those projects. But I'm the one who had to put them out to bid, put them, all that. I also had to find the funding for them. So when I left, when the economy downturned, and I'm going to call it the fall of the city, because there was no funds to pay any of the city employees, they laid everybody off, and that's the only reason I left there, because I really loved that job. I was in the middle of a multi-billion-dollar housing project. It was called Workforce Housing. I was building a housing project to for people who were they had a job, but yet they were needed a little bit of help, subsidy to help for their rent, and I had scrounged up the money. I'm going to call it scrounged because that's basically what you do when you're trying to fund a project like that. I had used tax credits, I had used home funds from the state of California, and I had used redevelopment agency funds. I had also recruited a developer to actually build that project. And in fact, the only reason that project isn't standing now in Houston is because once they laid everybody off in the city, including me, they had no one to run the grant money funds. And with the state of California, well, most grants, you have to have a qualified person to be able to do all the reports, to be able to make sure the money is being spent correctly, to keep track of all of, and if you don't have anybody qualified, then they pull back their money. And so the state of California actually pulled back their money. And so that project got nixed because I was no longer working for the city. So,
So
that's my professional life.
Right. So I see that you have done a lot in the like coming into situations that are very stressed, and a lot of decisions have to be made very quickly.
Right.
And so you're probably one where, you know, I'm gonna get on to some other questions, but the one that I asked last, I'm gonna go first right now, and that was in the challenging months that we have ahead of us. Are you able, as a homeowner, do you see that you can make these same tough decisions as you've done in Houston and all these different places? Are you able to come in and help us make some really big, important decisions, even if it's tough to do, and you might have some folks in the community might be disagreeing or what have you? You know, hopefully we're going to be doing a lot of education, and we're going to be doing a lot more transparency in the weeks to come to help educate the community on things. And you know, we're going to be very open and transparent on things, but you know, you're never going to have 100% of the whole. So for those that may come and say, I'm not agreeing, are you still able to make those tough decisions as a homeowner here?
Yes. In fact, when I actually did the downtown in Houston, obviously that put an extreme burden on the business owners there. I mean, I tore up the street in front of there. People couldn't get to their businesses. So
Right.
I had to mitigate ways of getting people to their businesses. And also, you know, they weren't happy. They were not happy. And so I had to work with them to make it right, so to speak. And so there was a lot of transparency, a lot of speaking with the public, a lot of working with the public, a lot of public meetings, working with them to redo that.
I have a feeling moving forward as a board, we're going to be having a lot more meetings than just one a month, because we have a lot to do, and there's going to be a lot of information. And so I'm glad that you're open to that, because in the past people haven't wanted to necessarily have more meetings. But I have a feeling we're going to be doing a lot more meetings for the community to be much more open and transparent. I'm going to ask you the same questions based on that 700 form and economic interests. So do you have any economic interests or investments here within the district? And if so, what would they be?
No, I only own my home here.
Okay. And then same thing, do you have any financial interests, or have you invested any money into Angels Crossing or any other organization by which they're known or unknown to us, or any of the individual players that are involved in Angels Crossing, to where you would be getting some type of a kickback in the future once the place is developed? Do you have any ties to Angels Crossing?
No.
Okay.
None whatsoever.
Great. Well, Julie, do you have any questions for Ms. Coopers?
I don't have any questions. She's gone over everything and sounds very good, very knowledgeable.
Awesome. Zachariah, do you have any questions?
Well, I think she gave a very good comprehensive answer, pretty much background on herself. I do have one single question. I feel it's pertinent. I noticed in your bio that you spent some time with the city of Modesto, the water division.
Yes.
How would obtaining the state water distribution certificate, maybe you could just tell me a little bit about all the education that goes into that and how that might be beneficial.
You have, well, I will tell you, it was probably one of the toughest tests I've ever taken. What you have to do is you have to learn how to distribute water to people, and what you have to do to recycle the tanks, what you have to do to make sure that the water, when people turn the faucet on, actually comes out, and that it's clean, and that it's been, that's drinkable. It passed all the state tests. I had to take classes for that. In fact, I was looking through, I moved into Diablo Grande about a little over a year ago, a year and 3 months actually. And so when I was unpacking my books, I actually found quite a few of my textbooks that I had to study for water distribution. So I was like, oh, and I didn't think I needed them at the time, and actually got rid of a few, and now I'm regretting it. So, but yeah, take the state board certification. It's obviously costs money, but you also have to take the classes too. And it's been a while. As I said in my bio, mine's expired. But you don't forget all that stuff. You just don't. It's like when you study for your bachelor's degree, which I have. I have a bachelor's degree in business, bachelor's of science in business management. You don't forget everything you learned in your classes. So.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully it's nothing like trigonometry, because I certainly don't remember any of that.
Oh, there was trig on the test. There was trig on the test. There was.
Thank you so much for your answer. I appreciate it.
Geez. Okay, how do we go from there? All right, so we're gonna open it up for any questions from the community for Ms. Coopers, or any statements. Anybody have a question for Ms. Coopers?
Before we do, can I just ask, am we saying your name correctly? Because I know Dwayne Kuiper is an announcer for the Giants, and I see your name and I want to say Kuiper. Is it Kuiper or
Yes,
Kuiper?
yeah, it is Kuipers, yes.
I thought so. Okay.
I'm so sorry, it's Mrs.
It was just bugging me so much. I was just like, I gotta find out. Okay.
Kuipers.
It was bugging you more than it was me.
The U is silent.
Very
Mrs.
kind of you.
Right. It's Dutch. In Europe, they say the second vowel. In America, we say the first vowel.
Please forgive me for saying your name wrong. I hate doing
Not a problem. It's not a problem.
All right.
I don't have any hands up, and I don't have anyone in the chat, so I feel like we're good to go.
All right, then let's bring in Mr. Seefeld.
Okay, unmuting you right now.
Unmute.
Hello,
Can you hear
sir.
us?
Yes. Hey, you guys.
Hello, how are you?
Go ahead. Sorry.
How are you doing?
Yeah, under the weather.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. All right, well, I'm gonna start off. Are you a homeowner with title on your home?
Yes, we are.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself, talents, abilities, and how you see yourself fitting on the water board.
You know, I've got extensive background with master plan communities, worked with numerous of the top builders and developers around it, at least the top 10. I helped D.R. Horton when they were here. I brought in Dave Sampson, which Dave owns Denova Homes, because D.R. Horton wanted out. I brought in numerous other companies through the past that nobody has been able to wrap their arms around this thing, and it's mainly because of the water district. So I've got an extensive background in the real estate, the development side with bonding. I was a forward planner and partner with Tracy Hills, which that's integral, which I still work personally with those guys. I secured their water supply for them, and that was the Widgeon Water District. So we worked through conveyances and transferred and moved that district to the city of Tracy. I also developed, I call it Wesley Triangle. It's the Wesley exit, where you guys might notice there's Joe's and hotels, and I formed a water district up there to take care of my customer base for the different landowners. So had involvement there. Also Oxford Energy built a multi-million-dollar cogen plant and couldn't figure out their water supplies or what they were going to do. Finally broke down, and I was able to accomplish what they needed, and they were able to finish their project. So that's basically a little bit of background with, you know, water and development.
And how would you bring these talents to help here us at the Western Hills Water District?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, you know, we've got a huge bonding issue that, you know, all the bond monies have been spent, and usually, like, if I work with the master plan community, that bond money goes to the complete project. It doesn't go for 20% of the project, and then you leave the rest of your land encumbered with bonds with no improvements, which is a huge hindrance for anybody. And that's one thing that developers look at is a huge obstacle, because now not only land cost, you've got improvement cost, and before you've even done anything, you've got a bond financing encumbrance on it. So basically, when you work backwards, that's what I do. I work the residual value. It doesn't look well for the project unless we can do something about it, because the numbers, and anybody can run the numbers, so they just don't align with the market share that we have.
So how do you propose, if you're on the board, you would fix something like that?
Well, I think I've already been through the county once before on the same issue, met with Nick Krosnick, which is the legal counsel, met with DeMartini, who was our supervisor then, and the county health to try to figure out, this is when Don filed bankruptcy, and that's Don Panos. And, we came up empty, went to the State Department, figuring out, is there a bailout program for anything like this? And there wasn't. I've had numerous talks with the bond companies, and there are ways to keep everybody's Melrose bonds in place. So, no matter who lives up here, we would not be impacted one penny. If you're paying, $3,000 Melrose or $2,400 or whatever your amount is, that would never change, but we'd probably have to do an overlay, create a new development a new funding apparatus to free up this property and give it some infrastructure value so a developer could come in here and make it.
But, are you aware though, like currently, when the bond money was being paid by World, they obviously stopped paying it, but when it was being paid, people who bought their homes up here would be able to say, hey, I want to pay off my Melrose sooner, and they would get a payoff, and that payoff would obviously be minus the interest for the, let's say, 15 years they still had to pay on it, 18 years they'd have to pay, and their payoff would be X amount. But because World stopped paying and Angels Crossing for now 9 months or almost 9 months, they haven't paid. Now, if people call up and say, what is my payoff? You realize that there is no payoff, because the amount of money that has not been paid by Angels Crossing has now caused a burden on all of us who are paying our Melrose. And what would you say on that?
Oh, I've had numerous conversations. You're right on the money. I've helped people in the past pay off quite a few of the Melrose bonds, because when it was advantageous to do it, it was a good call. My advice to anybody right now, it's prohibited. You can't do it. So until we can get this thing, back to square one and operating in, strong standards, none of us are going to be able to pay off their Melrose bonds.
So what do you feel, or what do you think about Angels Crossing and they're not paying for 9 months, almost 9 months?
And I worked with the guys. I'm actually trying to do some processing to create some values up here. What I got to say, it's like political parties right now. Everybody hates everybody so much that, we got to let our guards down. We've got to work. You don't have to give in to anything. You guys are the board. But I think to work our way out of this with the financial burden, and you guys know with Kern County and Resnick and those guys, they're big time. And the city of Patterson, I know they're, not very happy. I know the board's probably talked to them that, they're not receiving their compensation,
Right.
which is pretty
paying their
pretty
bills.
bad.
What is your thought on that? How, if you were on the board and you've made relationships with Angels Crossing folks, do you have an idea of how you can bring them to the table to pay? Because you use the word hate. I don't hate anybody. I don't think anybody on our board hates anybody. That's kind of strong language for me. So how do we if you were on the board, how would you bring people to the table to start paying their contractual obligations? How would you go?
I would make contact with them, and I'd sit down with the rest of the board and with them and say, okay, you know, what's going to resolve this issue? How do we move it forward? Because,
paying your
you
bills.
know,
That would
they can't move without you. You can't move without them. So we're going to have to join hands and get a plan that's got to be able to, you know, to succeed. Because with the position we're in now, with the debt that is against this water district, there is no possible way that it's going to be very hard for it to, you know, survive.
Right. So I see you understand the problem. That's not, I'm asking if you're on the board and you've been involved with Angels Crossing since they got here and probably before they got here. What, in your relationship with them, how would you go about bringing them to the table and telling them, hey, you got to pay your contractual obligations. Let's get it going. Let's start paying. We're not holding them back from paying. We're trying to survive. So, you know, I'm hearing you say we have to come to a table and talk, but basically we have to start getting the money. So how would you go about doing that if you were on the board? How would you make that happen?
I would say, what do we need to get some payments? What information do they need to make that water district liable? I know that we've got
contractual obligations, so they already have committed to making the payments.
I know, but if we don't talk to each other, we're never going to accomplish anything. I mean, we've got to start fresh. We've got to, you know, figure out how this is going to work, because unless you can get someone who can attract a major developer, and just to clarify things, I never had involvement with Angels Crossing before this project. I wasn't even aware of the principles on it. I was asked by a individual that I have a lot of respect for. And basically it was, Chuck, there's a guy who wants to purchase some property at Diablo Grande. And I told him if they wanted to get involved with Diablo, you'd probably be the best, you know, contact for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I didn't bring him here. I didn't recruit him. I didn't do anything else other than try to assist him to get through some of the due diligence and find out, you know, the mess that we're in.
Okay. So the questions I would ask for you are the same ones that I asked of everyone regarding the 700 form. If you were to be put on the board, you would have to fill that out.
Yes.
And, it's a matter of economic interest. So do you have any economic interests or investments within the district, and what would they be?
I have economic investments. I, you know, own my own home. I did invest with Angels Crossing, and I have fronted some upfront, you know, labor cost.
Okay. And are you promised any type of kickback once the place is developed? Do you have any?
I'm working on actually a handshake. I do not have anything written in contract. And for my efforts, especially if this becomes successful, I don't think anybody would have a problem with it. Yeah, I would expect to be compensated.
And have you talked about being compensated to Angels Crossing?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. And they've agreed to compensate you if and when this place gets going?
We're in discussions.
Okay.
So.
And your investments to Angels Crossing, is it, you know, is it, because you would have to, again, disclose this on your 700, how much are we talking that you invested with them?
Oh, not a lot of money, you know, investment wise, you know, 50,000, and the labor up front and some reimbursements to get the vineyards back in gear, to clean this place up, probably another, you know, 25,000 plus or minus.
Okay.
It's not a huge amount of money.
All right. And then same question for you I had for the others, and that is, as we've just discussed, we all know that there's a lot of challenges before us and some really tough decisions to make. We have a lot of friends and a lot of people up here that you know, and would you be able to make tough decisions, even if some of those that you have relationships with, and even if Angels Crossing, who you are in partnership with to some degree investment wise, were to not be happy, will you be able to be your own representative and make tough decisions that are in the betterment of the community?
What I'm going to do is represent the water district. I do not compromise my position, no matter who, what, or where. Give you an example. We had a huge road deficiency up here, and Ed DeSilva, well, it's Oliver DeSilva Construction Company. You know, they're very, very close friends. We have a relationship with them. I had to go out and basically, you know, file suit. Nobody else would join in. Julie was around at that time, and through litigation that, you know, I spent way over a year through depositions and everything else, we received, I don't know, $500,000 to $700,000. It went directly into, you know, this project, the HOA or COA. So have I made tough decisions? Yes. I mean, and let me tell you, DeSilva was a lot closer friends because I had a family relationship with them. You've got to do what you got to do.
Okay. Fair point. Thank you. Appreciate your questions. Julie, do you have any questions for Mr. Sidfeld?
Not off the top of my head.
All right. Zechariah, do you have any questions?
I guess I just have a single question, and that is, I feel like there's been so much talking throughout this entire process, so much communication back and forth. And I feel like at this point, you know, what do you legitimately bring to the table? If you have a relationship with Angels Crossing, as you described, how do you leverage anything to get past the talking phase? Because it seems like there's just so much talking and talking and talking. How do you actually get them to cut a check and help support the water district so that everybody continues to have water flowing to their homes? Because that just seems to me like the brass tacks.
No, it is. And that's one thing that I think we've got to, you know, address, because there's a lot of things with the water district that has to be resolved. I mean, you know, that water system, and Chris being an engineer, he'll find out it's pretty dysfunctional at best. And, you know, there's a lot of water that has to be wasted. If I can get the guys to sit down simply enough to, there's a brine tank up there, 750,000 gallons, that uses the backflow water. And as you see now, it's dispersed by, you know, the water truck with labor intensive. It runs, you know, nonstop basically. So I do know that Angels Crossing is asked for specs on that water. Maybe I can get them to go ahead and put in that unit, where then it could be delivered to the 6th pond, that's the first feed for the irrigation systems for the golf course. And, you know, maybe quite possibly that water truck, you know, I don't know if you can lease out, you know, public utilities or nothing. The attorney's got to figure that out. But if we didn't need it and we could put the water directly into the ponds, bring back the golf course, I think that's a huge financial benefit in the right directions, just simply doing that. And then we have to work on every other area. I do know that, you know, the water cost is derived by whatever we use, and the balance is paid by the developer. And, you know, I've seen waste. Doug Moore and Mike Oliver went with me personally. I put in actually 8 6x8s at the Frog Pond, tongue and groove. I wanted to make sure that I could see what was going on. And before Doug and Mike could hardly, you know, get the boards in, it was filling up. And with that same afternoon, it's running over the top, which is, I mean, in simple calculations, we've got a surface area over there at about 1.3 acre feet, and it just pours water, and it's been pouring water over the top.
So Chuck, yes,
for a long time.
Let me interrupt. Yeah, some of the things you're talking about, though, they're state guidelines and water code that
Understood.
certain things. So I don't want to get into all of that, but some of the things that you're talking about, we can't do it legally. But I do have a question because I was thinking back over some of your answers, and you made mention, and I kind of made a note here, and I wanted to jump back on it. But you said that when you decided to invest a little bit, maybe 50,000 into Angels Crossing for them to help develop up here. I'm curious, did you ever look at their financials or request any of their financials to find out if they're a stable company with money in the bank before you decided to give $50,000 to them for help?
I was brought in by an individual that I told you I have complete trust in, and I know he's, financially capable of his word. And so a lot of times I'll do business just because I have a reference going in. And this individual has always been more than fair, straight. I've never had an incident. When he said, "Hey, Chuck, these guys are looking at Diablo," I've always believed in Diablo Grande. It's always had issues. It is called the Big Devil for a reason, but
We'd like to change that name really quick.
Excuse me?
I think we should change this place to something else from the Big Devil.
No, I do too.
For some reason, that just is really bad.
Julie's been in real estate, and when we have Asian clients up here, it's, you don't need to, chase off clientele, and the Big Devil does not sit well with a lot of cultures.
It's true. So you didn't see any financials, is what I'm hearing you say. You
No.
just gave $50,000 trusting these people have money based on someone else that you know. Now, do you know if that person ever saw their financials, just out of curiosity, to give you a little more security?
He probably has. He's so thorough that he just doesn't miss a beat. So it's kind of like running with a guy with a phenomenal track record.
You are so trustworthy. Hey, I need $50,000. Will you loan me some? And you can trust. I'll pay it back. You are a really trustworthy guy, man.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to be. But I knew this place needed a kickstart, and I was willing to put some risk money out.
Yeah, no, that's commendable. I hope you don't lose your shirt. All right. Any questions from the community for Mr. Seifelt?
I'm not seeing anything.
All right. Well, it's time for us as a board we can turn everybody's off. I want to thank Linda, Chuck, and Chris. I appreciate you guys stepping up and wanting to be a part of the community and helping the water district. I think that's admirable. I mean, seriously, I think it's awesome. I want to let everybody know that the petition that was given to the water board a couple months ago that had almost 200 signatures is now up to almost 300 or a little over 300 signatures. The community is very clear that they want a resident-run board until such time as Angels Crossing starts paying their bills. We as the board understand that. We hear you as the community. 300 signatures out of 600 homes is a pretty big number, and again, you can't get 100% of a whole. I believe that a petition that Angels Crossing sent down to the Board of Supervisors had 7 signatures. So they had 7 and we have over 300. So I want you guys to know that the board hears you. We understand what the community is asking. And so as we deliberate now over these 3 well-qualified candidates, you're just going to hear us now discussing it. So Zechariah, your thoughts? Julie, your thoughts on the 3 candidates?
I'll yield to Julie first.
Julie?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
That's all right.
She's eating dinner.
Well, what's good is we have 3 resident candidates, and I think everybody has a great resume. So,
All right.
those are my thoughts.
Zechariah, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I would agree that all 3 of the candidates obviously have pretty impressive resumes. I like the answers that Chris gave. I think that a lot of that sort of mindset and approach can prove very helpful in some of the problems we face. finding innovative ways to look at things, complex, take things apart, look underneath, look at the innards, so to speak. So that's a good approach. I also think that Linda, man, she gave a really, really good, bio, kind of expanding on her bio. A lot of good background, pertinent experience, obviously, with the water certificate, this distribution, working with Modesto, a lot of management experience, things of that nature. So I thought that was highly impressive. Everybody's well-spoken. Obviously, Chuck has some real estate experience, and he brings a different sort of depth of knowledge to the table. So I think that overall, I know this is a very general answer.
Well, no, we have a really solid, right? I mean, we have a solid set of candidates right here. So moving forward, there's a couple things that, I want to see as a vision for the water board moving forward. One is transparency. I believe that the water district has been kind of this secret, quiet, building up on the hill, that what happens there. And there's been a void created by not communicating with the public. And that void has been filled with non-facts, untruths, half-truths. It's given a place for a lot of opinion and maybe not necessarily fact. And so moving forward and putting people into board positions, I'm proposing a thought matter of what's going to be helpful moving forward in this crazy time. And one thing is huge for me, and that is communication. We have to communicate with the public better. We have to be transparent with the public moving forward. It is imperative that with what we need to do to move forward, we have to educate and communicate and have the community start learning how things work, because a lot of them just don't know, and you can't hold them, at fault for that. It's on us. It's on us as a board to make that better. And so the one person I notice in the three of these candidates that I see is our best bet for communication, a communications director, mind you. I see Chris as being a really, really strong individual in this regard. I think his talent, his ability, his gift, his ability to work with websites, social media sites, this kind of thing, I think is going to be imperative of us moving forward. So one is Chris, I believe, is a very strong contender. That's my opinion. So then my second thing is moving forward, we need to have in the transparency, our finances. The financial thing is huge because we can say until we're blue in the face, no one is embezzling money and no one is stealing money and your rates are high because of this, and everybody's just like, you guys are crazy. But we have to become much more education minded, and we need to get people in here with the abilities with finances to be able to present, like we have these action items, and eventually we'll get to it, but it's reports from district staff, reports from board members. And every time we have a board meeting, we get to those sections and people say, we have nothing to say. Well, our district's going to hell in a handbasket and we never have anything to say. And that needs to change. And so for that to change, we need to have a board member specifically who can help get the financial information and work with, and we have it as a line item here coming up, but we're going to have an officer also in this position. But we need a board member and an officer working hand in hand with Ashley at the front office and really getting a handle on our finances, finding out if there's waste and cutting it, and really moving forward in that. So I'm looking at the three people here, and I'm seeing Chris has a real strong suit with communication. And then I see Linda having a really strong suit with finance and really working with crazy situations and being thrown into, you know, the deep end. And it sounds through her resume and her personal experiences that she's been able to really help move things in a good, positive direction. So I'm looking at these two. Chuck has another, he's really, I think, would be really helpful in the real estate side of things, the bond side of things. He brought up those two aspects, and he's strong in that. And when I hear him talk, I think he has some really good insight in the area of bonds and real estate. And then I sit here in my head and I'm like, we got Julie. And Julie is an amazing individual when it comes to real estate and bonds. So then do we need two people in real estate and bonds? I don't know. And that's kind of where I'm kind of going back and forth. I really, Chris and Linda, I see you in positions that we actually need. And I see Chuck as being a very strong individual, but we have somebody already kind of in that seat doing that and helping us navigate in those areas currently. So I'm throwing this to you guys for, am I wrong? Am I right? What do you think? Disagree? Where are we at with that?
Yeah, I think what you said makes sense. Certainly having someone who's really good at communication would be an excellent asset. I think that Chris brings that to the table in spades. Obviously the finances you can take care of on Linda's side of things could be very helpful as well. I hadn't really thought about that till you just mentioned, you know, I was mentioning that earlier that, you know, Chuck brings a lot of real estate experience, but obviously we have Julie who also brings that to the table. So I feel like maybe to round out the team, we may want to kind of look at a weaker link somewhere else and see if we can't fill that hole. So yeah, I heard everything you said. I think you made some good points. So
Julie, what do you think?
Well, since I'm the person that you're talking about, I probably don't want to say too much, but I would agree. I think just one of the things I would say is that since it's a 5-person board and we're, you know, the last time that they were doing the appointments, I was very supportive of both Chris and Randy, and I really liked also what Randy brought to the table for the water district. So I just am hoping that if the board, you know, whomever it is, if the board needs help, that the people are still willing to help with anything that we need. Obviously can't help with particular things and decisions, but, you know, we do need some help at this water district. So anybody with the knowledge that's willing to help, that would be great, whether they're on the board or not. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, Julie, you make a great point, and I think that that's where this comes in. And for the community who's listening, that is something that we will be doing, and that is, you know, how we've had the water ad hoc committee to talk about water rates and those things. I feel like we need an engineering committee where folks in the community could volunteer their time and look into, you know, what happens up at the treatment plant and maybe how we can better ourselves and work with a board member on that. So I think we should have a committee for a lot of different things that as we're moving forward. There's a lot of things that we're community, since the community is now involved and the community is now speaking up, 300 people for goodness sakes, I think we now have a bigger pool to possibly get people involved in the process. Because when people are involved in the process, then it's not just the community taking my word for it or Zechariah's word for it or another board member's word for it. The community is now getting involved, and there's more people in the community going, no, this is real. You know, this is a real serious issue, and this is how we're going about trying to fix it. So yes, Julie, I agree. And I think that we're going to find people in more like maybe ad hoc committees working with an individual board member and bringing their talents and looking over some things and maybe bringing up suggestions on how we can better ourselves and cut costs, cut waste. And I think, you know, even Chuck could be a good person in that regards. You know, sitting on an ad hoc, that might be a really good place for him and he can really speak with his knowledge and his knowledge base. And that might be a better spot for him if we don't vote him on to a board director seat. That could be a really good spot for him. And he still has a voice, and he can bring in his experiences, and it can be very helpful to all of us, and we can learn and glean from his experiences. So I think those are important things. I really do. All right, well, does anybody want to make a motion to start us out for one of the director seats that's available?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Julie.
I'll go ahead. I'd like to move to appoint Chris Blessings to the board. I know he had sought the position before, and I think he would do a great job.
All right, do we have a
So I
second for
move
that?
for Chris.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we got 3 ayes. Mr. Blessing, you are officially a Western Hills Water District board member. And why don't we unmute him and have Ashley read you, or not read you, but have you take the oath of office. And Ashley, take it from here.
All right. Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If you wouldn't mind raising your right hand and repeat after me. I, your name, do solemnly swear
Okay. I, Chris Blessing, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
of the United States and the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Repeat that one more time for me.
No problem. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or obligation.
Purpose of evasion.
Purpose of evasion, right. Thank you.
And lastly, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you for the vote of confidence.
Congratulations. Now you just have to sign your life away to say that you're going to be spending 80 hours a week for the water district.
I don't think my boss would be very happy about that.
Oh, man. All right. So, Mr. Blessing, as of right this moment, you are able to, you'll be continued to be unmuted from the remainder of this because you're now officially a board member. You get to vote on everything moving forward. And whoever becomes the next appointee, I just want you guys to all know, so I don't have to repeat this. You all will be able to vote on anything proceeding as soon as you take your oath. And one thing that was never told to me, which is probably kind of silly that I'm going to admit this, but one thing that was never told to me when I got on the board is I could abstain from a vote if I was confused about a matter or I wasn't sure how to vote. I sort of got thrown into the deep end and it was, hey, you got to vote, you got to vote, you got to vote. And there was a lot of stuff. And I just want you to know that moving forward tonight for the two new directors, if you are not comfortable making a vote, please understand that you can just abstain from voting if you so desire. I don't want you to feel pressure in any way, shape, or form if you need time to read things. And you can also ask a lot of questions. So you can ask questions about something that we're going to be voting on, and we'll try to explain it to the best of our ability. If we need David Hobbs to jump in and explain something, he can. But at the end of the discussion, if you're not comfortable voting because you're just new to this, you don't have to vote. Don't feel pressure to be a yes or a no. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
So anyway, moving on. Anybody else want to make a motion for the second available seat?
I do. I would like to make a motion to appoint Linda Kuiper to the remaining board vacancy.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ms. Kuipers, you are now the second board member appointed this evening, and I congratulate you, ma'am. And you get to now take the oath of office, and I will hand it over to Ashley.
Well, I guess this was a good time to learn the proper way to pronounce your name.
Yes.
Okay.
Leave the U out. Leave the U out when you look at her name.
You're welcome.
Seriously.
You're welcome.
I was saying it just like Matthew was, so we might have given each other that name.
It's perfect.
Okay. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Linda Kuipers, do solemnly swear
I, Linda Kuipers, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance
foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
All right.
Congratulations, Ms.
Thank
Kuiper.
you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you.
And
Likewise.
the Western Hills Water District has just made history tonight. We have 5 board members that are all residents from Diablo Grande. And this is a very kind of an emotional and important night. And, you know, I want to just let the community know that we are going to do our best, and we are going to give it our 100% to do what's right. And we are going to, I make a vow, we are going to become transparent. We are going to become more open and help the community know what's going on. I think that that is important as we move forward.
I fully support that.
Yeah, and I just, you know, I think we're going to make a great team. We're going to work together, and we're going to get all of our knowledge and our experiences together, and we're going to start doing some great stuff for this community. And we have a tough road ahead. I won't lie to anybody or the community. There's a tough road ahead. Having a developer not pay their bills for this long, and World on top of that for over a year, the district is in really, really bad shape, and we don't have a whole lot of direction that we can go. And so we as a board are going to start coming together, and we're going to be having meetings, and we're going to be talking and communicating and getting things going. And so I'm excited for all of you guys, and I look forward to working with all of you. All right, so let's move on now to the next action item. It is point B. It is the consideration and approval of resolution number 2021-01, and it's a resolution to appoint a new Western Hills Water District treasurer, assessor, and tax collector. And as you know, before we had Mr. Mowry, and that situation just did not work out. And another individual after our last meeting and are kind of putting it out there that is this somebody want to be in this position. We received an application from a resident, and I would like him to come on, and we want to interview him and chat with him. It's Mark Kovich. And Mark, if you're there, can we unmute him so we can chat with you?
Mark, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Kovich. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So I've read your statement. I've read your work experience. You're not going to be in a director role. So even though you'll be taking an oath of office, you don't have a voting situation where you're going to be actually being able to vote on anything. But it's very important that we have somebody that can work with us and that can bring to the board their findings and their issues and just be there for us in the capacity of the finance side of things and the treasurer side of things. So maybe for the public, could you give us a little bit of information
Bore
on
me in. I'm now a board member.
Linda?
Oh, Linda, you're also unmute. You're not muted any longer.
Oh,
You're on. But yes, we congratulate you. You can, but Linda, unmute yourself because you're part of the board now. So you've got to be unmuted so we can hear you.
I apologize. My husband walked in the room. Sorry, I had to tell him.
It's okay. Have a glass of wine.
There you
All right. So anyway, Mr. Kovich, if you would explain to the community a little bit about who you are and how you see yourself fitting in this position and how you can help us better.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve this community, and I have a big motivation into providing the transparency that so many people have been asking about for the past several months regarding the water district. A little bit of background about myself. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm a native Californian, born and raised in California. I've lived in California my entire life. I do have vast experience of business and corporate. I work for one of the largest corporations, IBM. I do business development for IBM, and I also am the chief financial officer for my wife's company, Sonia Paz Incorporated. It's been a corporation since 2005. So I have a pretty good understanding as far as doing accounting and understanding how business development works. My objective in taking this position is to be able to get into the guts of the financials of the water district and to provide a full investigative report to the community and the public at large. My goal is to provide this report within the next 60 to 90 days to disclose and to share with everybody what has happened within the West Mills Water District and to finally demystify what has happened over the past several years with the bond money, with the operations, with water charges, and all the questions that have been asked numerous times by a lot of different people that I've seen not only at the board meetings, but also through social media and that sort of stuff. Since I've been a resident here in 2015, I've attended virtually every water board meeting and HOA board meeting. I do have a very big interest in understanding what's going on. So I feel quite comfortable that I could provide and give the facilitation that's needed to the community. That's my main goal, is to be able to share with the community and to disclose to the community what has happened here so that everybody will be satisfied as far as knowing the truth. They may not like it. They may like it, I don't know, but that's my objective, is just to give a non-judgmental, non-biased report as far as what's transpired.
Excellent.
So that's all I have to say, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Excellent. And just one question. Do you have any investments up here in Diablo, Grande, or I'm looking for economic interests or investments?
No, not at all.
Okay. And are you affiliated in any way, shape, or form with Angels Crossing, and or have you donated or given any money to them? And do you have any type of kickback that would come back to you if this place ever succeeded?
No, I have no affiliation with Angels Crossing or any of their associates affiliates in any way, shape, or form.
Excellent. All right. Any questions from the board? And that would
I don't have any questions.
all right. Any questions from you, Zechariah, Chris, or Linda?
I do not have any questions.
All right.
I also don't have any questions, and I just want to say that is something that's very much needed.
Yeah, it
For a
is.
variety of
Yes,
reasons.
indeed.
Zechariah, did you have any questions?
I don't have a particular question, no.
Okay.
I would just agree that it's something that's needed. I
Yeah.
think that will, yeah, I think that the perception, it'll help with the perception, I think, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that, again, that void, the void that we have had as a district for so many years of, for lack of better word, secrecy, or just not communicating with the public what's been going on. This is going to help it tremendously in that regard, just getting information to people and in the financial way. So excellent. All right. Well, does anybody want to make a motion for Mr. Kovich?
I will make a motion for Mr. Kovich,
To
the
be,
treasurer.
okay, so we're going to say, I make a this is how we got to do it. We make,
Okay.
we make a sorry, guys. I'll do the motion. I make a motion to approve resolution 2021-01, a resolution to appoint new Western Hills Water District Treasurer, Assessor, Tax Collector Mark Kovich as the officer. And then we just need a second on that.
I second that.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 And Mr. Kovich, you are now a officer on the Western Hills Water District Board of Directors. And I will turn you over to Ashley for her to swear you in.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kovich, if you wouldn't mind raising your right hand, repeat after me. I, Mark Kovich, do solemnly swear
I, Mark Kovich, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear full faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation,
purpose, or evasion,
purpose, or evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
All right.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Kovich, and welcome to the board. I appreciate that you're willing to volunteer your time in this regard, and I am excited for what we are going to be doing here in the next month or so. It's awesome, and now he can stay unmuted as well. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have a voting spot, but he can stay unmuted. All righty, so let's move on now. Before we move on, I do want to just thank Chuck for putting in his candidacy. I do really appreciate that. I wish you the best. You look horribly sick, and my heart goes out to you and your family. I hope you recover quickly. And I do mean what I say, that when we do have ad hoc committees that come up, I hope you will volunteer for that. Because I do think we can glean a lot of information from you and your experiences. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to the next point C in actions. And this is a consideration and approval for resolution number 2021-02. This is a resolution of the Western Hills Water District regarding approval for expenditure of approximately $132,969.50 of Diablo Grande Community Facility District Number 1 Mello Roos bond refinance proceeds for the payment of immediate Western Hills Water District expenses. And what I would like to do before we approve or disapprove this, I want to let the community understand that when we were talking earlier about we have a really rough road ahead, we have bills that are due and we have bills that must be paid. And because the world left us in a lurch of a year of not paying, or a little over a year of not paying, and Angels Crossing now 9 months into this, not paying anything, the Western Hills Water District's in really bad shape and financially bad shape. And one thing that's great is we now have Linda on board and we have Mark on board that's going to be reviewing everything. And we're going to be getting information from them, and where we can cut costs and we can save waste and we can do this or that. I am going to be ecstatically welcoming that information. But up to this point, we have bills that have to be paid. And so this is a large amount of money, but we do have to pay it. And it is bills that are due and payable. It has to do with payroll. It has to do with insurance. It's a new year. We have a lot of things happening. And, you know, bills have come due, insurance bills have come due, all sorts of things. So we have to pay these bills, and we need to move on this motion. But I can tell the community that it does not make me happy to have to pay this kind of money out for these type of things when we should have a developer that is paying their bills and it can be paid correctly. We have to do what we have to do to survive. We have to do what we have to do to continue to work another day to bring water to each and every one of your homes. And for us to do that costs money. And just throwing it out there. We also have Angels Crossing and their legal forces constantly barraging us with legal this and legal that, and we have to constantly respond to those. And every time our lawyer responds, it costs money. So we just need to understand as a community that bills are coming due and we have to pay them. And I'm trying to put a board together, and we just have now a good solid board, and we're going to be able to you know, move forward from here and ensure the community that the money is going to the right places. And you know, once they all get in that, they'll see it. But unfortunately, this money is payable immediately. So for us to continue to pump water to your homes, we got to pay our bills. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite and tell Angels Crossing that you guys have to pay your bill and we don't pay ours. We have to pay our bills. We are going to pay our bills. So there are certain things like the water to Kern and stuff that it's impossible to do, but we have to be able to keep the treatment plant going, and we have to be able to bring water to your homes. So that's what this $130,000 is, $132,969.50 is all about. So I make a motion to approve that resolution number 2021-02, resolution of the Water District for expenditures of approximately $132,969.50 to be for Diablo Grande Community. I gotta move this out of the way. Facility District Number 1 Mello Roos bond refinance proceeds for the payment of immediate Water District expenses. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? I'm an aye.
Aye.
Julie is an aye. Zechariah?
Yes, aye.
All right. Linda, what do you stand?
Unfortunately, I've not seen any of these expenses, and I don't feel like I would be doing the community justice by putting a vote. So at this point, I must abstain until I can actually see what I'm voting on.
Completely respect that. And where are you, Chris? I've lost you. Oh, there you are.
I feel exactly the same way. I just can't commit to voting on this, but I understand that it needs to be done.
Yes, I do too.
Completely understand, and you guys do not feel horrible in any way, shape, or form from abstaining from this vote. Please
Thank you.
understand. So the ayes have it, and we have moved to pass the resolution. All right, moving on to reports of district staff. Do we have any reports, Jerry or anybody else, district staff? Ron, anybody?
Nothing that was reported to me.
Okay. And any reports from board members? As far as the ad hoc committee from the water side of things, hopefully we'll have something to discuss in February on this issue. We're still trying to work out some things on that. But we should have something from the water rate study folks, hopefully in February. Don't take me, don't solidify that, but I'm hoping in February we will have something to report on to the community. All right, so this is the end of this session, and now we're going into the public comments or items not on the agenda. So this is where people will have 3 minutes to either make a statement or raise a question. We can either, as a board, briefly respond to those statements, or we can ask a question for clarification, or we can provide a reference to staff or other resource for factual information. We can request staff to report back at a subsequent meeting on the specific topic, or a board member or the board itself may take action to direct staff to place the matter of business on a future agenda. So what we will do is we will give people 3 minutes. And Ashley, if you can give them like a 30-second heads up, they're going to get close to the end. And if you'd like to make any suggestions or comments, you can raise your hand and we will open you up, or in the chat block, say you're trying to if we're not seeing you. And
I have a Don Williams here that would like to talk.
all right.
Don, if you give me just a second and I can unmute you. All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Just
Hello.
a very brief, I'm sorry. Okay.
We hear you, Mr. Williams.
Okay. I just want to make a very brief statement. First of all, Matt, I thank you for talking about the transparencies. That's something that I've been screaming about for a long time. And I think you made 2 excellent choices with the 2 board members. If you go ahead with ad hoc committees, I've got a lot of experience in education and awareness and communications. So if there's anything I can do to help Chris with that, I'd really like to help.
All right.
Thank you, Don.
Chris, I'm sure you're making note of that.
Absolutely. I know, Don.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I appreciate that.
Okay. I don't see anyone else with their hand up, and I'm not seeing anything regarding a public comment in the chat screen.
All right. So we're going to make a motion to adjourn. The next regular meeting will be Wednesday, February the 10th, 2021. And a motion to adjourn.
I have a quick question. I'd like to address chat real quick. I'd like to know who public is.
Who?
There's someone showing up in the chat and their name is public. I'd like to know what their name is, if possible. Is that possible to do?
If they register.
From public to everyone under the Brown Act, you have no right to ask. No right to ask what? I'm confused. I didn't read anything in chat because I don't have it open. Can somebody explain to me what's going on?
I'm able to unmute this person if that's what you'd like.
That's fine if it's not, you know, if that's not legal or whatever, that's fine. I don't
No,
have a
but I
problem.
mean, did they make a statement where they want to make a question or they want to make some sort of statement?
I don't know, I just see them making sweeping statements and I would just, it's interesting. Public just isn't interesting there.
Oh, so they were not.
Yeah, yeah,
I was thinking in the name of transparency, but
right. We're talking about transparency.
Just FYI, I did give public the opportunity to unmute and speak, and I'm not getting the confirmation from that person.
fair enough.
Okay, so they made comments on chat, but they don't want to publicly make them to the community as a whole. Is that what I'm understanding? I don't have chat open, so I don't know what is going on.
Yeah,
Go
that's
to the
what it looks.
Go to the bottom and click the chat.
Can I make a comment here? This is Cliff Gerard. I think, you know, Matthew, one of the things you could do when you mentioned communication and everything, I think the Brown Act would be a good thing to review rather than having people in the community talk about things. And public actually was right in this case. But anyway, I think part of the education thing would be sure you know the Brown Act.
Wait, so I'm so sorry. You were cutting in and out, and I didn't. I got.
You can't.
Can you say
Can
that?
you not hear me?
Yeah, I did, but it kind of cut out. I think it was my computer. My apologies.
Oh, okay. No apologies necessary. All I'm saying is that part of the education process for the board would be review the Brown Act so this kind of stuff doesn't come up and waste our time.
Again, I'm not sure what just happened.
Oh, well, somebody said under the Brown Act, you have no right to ask for anybody's IP.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, all I'm saying is, you know, rather than taking all these issues that will come up over the period of time, let's just have a little education and go over it. It's a quick thing to do. Shouldn't take more than an hour type of thing, but what you can do and what you can't do.
I think I will get copies of the Brown Act on everybody's desk to read. Or
Great.
they Google it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And forgive me, everybody in the community, because I don't watch chat when I'm trying to communicate and run the board meeting because I don't like getting confused. So I really don't know what just happened. So anyway, yeah. Okay.
I have one last comment and I'm just referring to the chat so that I can give everybody their opportunity. I see a comment from Kate Hay. Kate, if this is something you'd like to bring to the board's attention and ask, would you just mind raising your hand or let me know if that's something that you're interested in?
Hey, David.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Kate.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Hi. Just quick question. I know it's not related to what we were talking about here today, but I noticed that our water tastes differently, and I was wondering if there's a reason for it. Has it been treated differently recently? Do you know?
Jerry, are you?
Or is it just our house?
I do not have Jerry on our Zoom call tonight.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to answer that question. And it's funny, but I have a soft water system on my house up here. And so all my water is like filtered a billion times over. So I haven't noticed any change of water and I'm not aware of anything. But that would be a question for our general manager. And I guess we can get back to you on that. Because I don't know.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Ashley,
much.
can you make a note of that question? Get a hold of Jerry on that, and then in our next board meeting, we can bring that up.
No problem. Kate, when you get, let's see, trying to figure out a good way to get a contact information for you. Are you able to message me directly with just a phone number that you can be reached?
Yeah, I'll try that. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
Mhm.
All right, I don't see any other hands up and I don't see any other comments.
David, is David there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, David. When people are chatting on Zoom and they're off to the side chatting, if they ask a question because maybe they don't want to come on Zoom and they don't want to talk on Zoom, are we able to read their question and then answer them via that way? Or is that, I'm still confused on this Brown
This
Act.
is one of the gray areas that we're having with Zoom in the days of COVID and the Brown Act. It's really what the board feels comfortable with as far as how they want to respond. But
Okay.
normally it's a pretty good way to communicate one way or the other.
Okay, so if someone texts a question or a statement, can we as a board, if we all choose to, can we answer them, or is that a Brown Act violation? Because like you said, it's a gray area. I've read the Brown Act and it doesn't mention Zoom.
No, no, there's nothing in the Brown Act that prevents you from responding to a question,
Okay.
whether it's in the chat or in open forum.
All right, so for the persons who are chatting versus talking, Ashley, were there anything that were said or questions asked that we as a board should address in this open forum, or no? Because again,
I believe
We don't have
everything
chat
in,
open.
well, it goes pretty far back, Matthew. I
Okay.
don't see anything here that needs to be addressed.
okay,
A lot of it is conversation. I do
Yeah.
try to keep an eye on it just so that I can see if anybody has anything specific that they don't necessarily know how to use their hand.
addressing people's comments, but if there's any question for us, specific question for us, just because somebody can't get on or whatever, I just
Right.
want to make sure everybody's voice has been heard before we close out the meeting.
Sure.
Gina has got her
Oh,
hand up again.
Yep. I
Scott.
just see that. 1 second. Gina.
I
Okay,
just wanted, I'm sorry, I just wanted to point out the very first question on chat. I think maybe that's something that the board may want to address, or if they're going to be addressing it soon, even saying something to that effect. I didn't
Okay.
write the question, but I think it's a good one.
The question she's referring to is, how desperate is our water situation? Will the homeowners have water? Due to the severity of the cost, are we at risk?
I am not at a place to discuss that in this meeting. I think more information will be available February. I think with all of the new board members now, we're going to need to discuss that and bring everyone up to speed on that. And I'd have a better, I think I'm going to have a better answer for you guys in February. Yes, we are in a serious situation. Water's not going to be shut off tomorrow or anytime in the next 4 or 5 months, 6 months. But we do have some very serious decisions that we as a board have to make moving forward beyond 6 months, I would say. And there's some serious, and if we move in a right direction, I think we can, there's some answers and there's some ideas that can help us as a community. But again, I'm not really ready to discuss that in this meeting. But as far as water shutting off tomorrow or in the next week or two, or even a month or two, no, we're good for a little while. But it's very serious, and we have to start making decisions immediately in transparency.
I have, I've been approached personally here, and it says, and this is from public, who sounds like this person just feels more comfortable in this arena. So
Sure.
I'll read this for them. And it says, where are the monies you have collected for sewer and water going? Ashley, please ask, where are the monies? Yeah.
Okay, very good question. I did actually, for some reason, that just popped up on my, and I'm not in the chat area, but it just like popped up and I kind of quickly glanced at it before it disappeared. Good question, excellent question. And this is where I'm going to be asking Mr. Blessing to begin to address these issues from a communication standpoint, and we're going to try to figure out how to use our website in a better way and things of that nature that will be coming up here very shortly. But just in a nutshell, when you make a budget, I'm going to kind of put this in a word picture, but let's just talk about our home budgets. When we have a home budget, and we go out and we buy a car. We all look at our budget and we say, okay, I make X amount of dollars and I can afford a car payment for X amount. So we go out and we buy a car, and the bill comes, and we in our budget have earmarked for that car payment. What happens is reality hits every family. We have a kid break their leg, or we have an automobile accident and we end up in the hospital with a huge bill. And so all of a sudden it blows our budget, to kingdom come. And so then what we do is we start looking at, well, where in our money do we put and pay for our car payment so our car doesn't get repossessed? Where do we put money to pay for our credit cards so the creditors don't start calling? And what all of us do in crises is we begin to itemize what is the most important thing that has to be paid for first. So the water district isn't any different than that. When you have a World International and an Angels Crossing that have stopped paying, or in Angels Crossings never have paid, when they are not paying their subsidy, which is the difference, then we don't have the luxury to pay all of our bills. So we have to say, what keeps water flowing to homes and where can we put the money? So when you say, so you pay your sewer bill, you pay your water bill, your bill is paid. As far as everyone's concerned in the world, you paid your sewer bill, and that's why you flush your toilet and the sewer goes away, and it goes. You're paying your bill. When you pay your water bill, you're paying your water bill. It shows cleared and you've paid. The money that comes to us as a district, it all comes into our account, and we have to decide where to put that money to keep water flowing to your home. And there are, employees, there is the treatment plant. There are so many different factors that go into that are necessity bills that must be paid. So your money is going to pay those necessities so you can get the water that you need. And so when people say, you didn't pay my sewer bill to Patterson, I just want you to understand that unfortunately, if every single person's sewer bill went to Patterson, there would be no water coming to your home, because we don't have the money to pay to make the water come to your home, because we have a developer that's not paying their bills. So we have to make, and this is where I'm going to be relying on Linda, and I'm going to be relying on Mark to really come in and start looking at all of this and really assessing everything. And if we can do things differently and we can do things better, that's what I want to hear. I want to be able to implement change, and this board does. I mean, all of us do. So this is the beauty of now not having a developer running the water district who is not paying their bills. We have concerned residents who want to see water coming to their homes also, and we don't want to see the value of our homes decrease and tank. We all have skin in the game, so to speak, and we all want to see us accomplish the task. So your question is a great one, but please understand it from a budgetary point of view. It's not apple to apple, apple to apple. It's not my little chunk of money here pays this chunk of money here. The money comes in, and because we don't have the subsidy being fulfilled at about $50,000 a month, we have to decide what is the most important bills that must be paid. And that's the bottom line of what's going on. So I hope that answers your question. And that's the situation we're in.
Matthew, I'm just doing my job over here. I'm not sure where the line gets drawn, but public did respond to your response and asks, have the attorneys approved this?
Wait, said what?
Have the attorneys approved this?
Have the attorneys approved what?
I'm assuming what you just explained about where the money is allocated that's been collected for sewer.
David, do you want to jump in on this one? David.
Did we lose him?
Is David still with us?
Let me just make sure he's still muted. Oh, I don't see him on here. I know he was having some technical difficulties earlier. It kept kicking him off, so that may have
So
happened.
basically, I can just speak from the point of view of what I know as a board member. I'm not sure what you're asking on whether or not is it normal for us to put money to pay the most important bills. The answer would be yes to that, because if we didn't, you wouldn't have water to your homes. And if you didn't have water to your homes would, I mean, you would all have to move out. So when you're kind of operating in an emergency crisis mode like we are, we've been told that this is exactly what we have to do. So yes, the answer to your question, because there's no
Matt,
answer. I want
Matt,
him to maybe chime in on that, but he obviously is left.
Matt,
Hello.
Julie, just speak up a
are
little
you
more.
there? Are you there?
We're here.
Can you hear me? I just wanted to say a quick thing that doesn't have anything to do with legal. But I don't know if this is what this person meant, but a few years ago, the residents, the whole community voted down the increase in those sewer rates. And I've had people ask me about this. But I don't know if everybody realizes, because there's a lot of new residents up here, but when the water district went into a contract to send the sewer down to Patterson, there was an agreement with Patterson that the water district's customers would pay 150% of whatever the sewer rates are being paid in Patterson. So whatever the customers in Patterson pay, we pay 150%. And one of the reasons the community voted down not continuing with that increase is because we were already paying so much more. Even the last rate increase that we had, I think we paid 55, and that's still more than the last time they tried to raise the rates. We were already still paying more. So people didn't really agree because we didn't really have an explanation as to the hard costs of where that money goes. It just says in the contract, we pay 150%.
Right.
So because people felt it violated their Prop 218 right, we're supposed to have an actual amount of where that money's going, and we don't. And so that's when the water district, I believe, stopped paying any amount over. They didn't pay the amount over the amount was collected. So we still pay what we were paying a few years ago, which I believe is still higher than what the city of Patterson pays to send our sewage down there. So that's one of the reasons why we have such a high bill, because that's been accruing since we voted down Prop 218. So in other words, the city of Patterson, if they don't vote down their sewer rates, that doesn't mean that we can't vote down our sewer rates, even though the money is going down to the city of Patterson. It violates our right under Prop 218 just to go along with them. So that's one of the reasons that bill is looking so high, is because they were just sending them the money they were collecting.
And what Julie is talking about, her investigative thought and process on the matter. This is not, as she said, legally like what our attorney is saying to us. This is her own investigative due diligence on the matter, and those are things that will be discussed moving forward as a board of directors. So what she's saying is her analysis of things that she's been finding out as she's been investigating this as a board of director. And so those things will be being discussed further on how we can address those situations. So I just
I'm basically saying this as a resident of what I know that the public knew back when the vote, when we voted down the rate hike. And that was because we were being charged 150% of what a typical customer was being charged.
Correct.
And the residents didn't feel, we didn't have anything laid out in writing specifying what those costs were.
Right. And just a little education on Prop 218. So every year everywhere in cities and counties across America, there are rate increases. And when you have populations of 20 million people like in LA, the increase is like 10 cents. And so you never get a Prop 218 challenge because it's like people don't even notice there's a 10 cent or 50 cent change. When you're a special district like we are and we're small, when a price goes up and it's exorbitant, it's a lot, everybody freaks and they do Prop 218 challenges. Well, every time you do a Prop 218 challenge, which we have done, it partly creates where we're at today and what our situation is today. Understanding if we don't have facts, or if the community doesn't have true facts and everybody's kind of going on what he said or she said, or I heard this or I heard that, well, then the Prop 218 challenges are going to always happen. And that's, again, where I think the water district has done not a good thing. And that is we have not been transparent and we've not educated our community in how things work. And I'm hoping with Mr. Kovich, Ms. Kuipers, on the financial side, when they start getting with Ashley and talking and communicating and looking into things, they're going to then hopefully move things to Chris, who is going to be our communications strategist, in how to bring all of this in an educated way to the community to really help people understand. And I'll be the first one to tell you, if we as a water district need to make policy changes and to change things, well, then we're going to do it. That's what this is all about. This isn't, pointing the finger at you guys this and you guys that. It's, we need to figure out answers. We need to, process change, and where we can make changes and where we can do things differently, then that's what we need to do. And this is, again, where I think we have a very strong team to do these things and move us in the right direction. And, looking at this in a long-term perspective, if we do things right, and we really do things right, Diablo Grande, or God willing, a different name, will look better to a developer that really has money and really wants to develop. We are going to look much better, and our standing is going to be much better if we clean our own house up and get things going right. You know what I mean? Because again, and I think even Chuck said tonight that, there's been a lot of chaos with the water district. Chaos is not a good thing. And so we need to be more transparent. We need to communicate. But to communicate, we need to communicate facts. And the only way we're going to have facts is getting Mr. Kovich on board, Ms. Kuipers on board, and them doing what they do best, and then presenting their information to us as a board and to the public, and saying, hey, this is where I think we can do better. And, or, oh, gee, we're really in a tight spot here. What can we do to change the direction and the course of the ship? And that's what we're going to do. And it's, I know there's no real good answer, but we've been dealt a deck of cards, and, my hands have been tied up until tonight. Tonight we have a board. Tonight we have 5 people who love this community, own houses here, have an investment. And, when you really think about it, Angels Crossing doesn't really have an investment here. The word is $100,000 for this place. $100,000. I mean, our houses, all of our houses are worth 3, 4, 5, 6 times that, 7 times that for some homes. So we have a much bigger investment here. And so now we have people on the board who have an investment here and want to see change, and we're going to make that happen. It's going to be tough, and I need the community to be involved. I need you guys to listen and hear things, and this is where I think all of us together getting the information out in a good way is going to be very helpful for us moving forward.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. I do not have any other direct questions or hand raises.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody, and we'll see you guys in February, if not sooner. And a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. We are adjourned. We'll see you guys February 10th or maybe before. Have a good
Take
night.
care, everyone.
Congratulations, everybody.
Thank you.